This is Andy.
And this is Matt.
And you're listening to
The Hop Podcast with no name.
What a dumb name.
It's so stupid. And we're off. Episode 75. Happy anniversary. Do you know what the anniversary logo theme is for this one?
No.
Okay. Well, a great mystery not revealed.
We'll continue.
It is Diamond. It's a Diamond episode.
Wow.
I know.
We better be good then, yeah?
No, you were thinking of something clever to say, and you just...
No, and I couldn't come up with anything.
Landed on good. Let's be good. We will try, which is different than most episodes where we just sort of let it go. This is our continuation. It might be our conclusion.
I believe probably the conclusion of our mini series.
Your favorite
on complexity.
I feel like that was a perfect moment if we were on some sort of like radio DJ where there'd be like a sound, and instead you chose to make the sound of you.
I did.
Perfect. Okay, so we gave everyone homework, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. We asked people to either recall an investigation that they've done within their organization or take a look at one and try to determine which of the three different learning approaches might have been used. So the first one would emulate kind of picturing things as an ordered system where you'd have an event. The event itself would be sort of picturing something that broke. You try to find the thing that broke and fix it. And so you'd be completely event focused with the way that you were learning. You'd be focused on that moment in time, the conditions that existed at that moment in time. And then the second mechanism would be you're going to learn about a process, but maybe the questions that you're asking to learn about the process would be picturing the process is mostly good with some amount of bad, and that people could sort of pinpoint the bad parts of the process. And you could find those ones and you could fix it. So you'd be asking questions like, what doesn't work well in your process, or what makes you angry about your process? And you'd be focusing just on trying to identify negative or variable parts. And then the third option would be learning about the process as a whole, where you're not necessarily asking just for negative or variable parts. You're asking people to kind of teach you the whole view of it. And we said that there's times that you would use all three of these, right? It's not that just one is what you should always be leaning towards, but it'd be helpful to know that which one we're using and why.
Yeah.
And what model of failure we're using in our mind in order to establish which of those learning styles you might want to use.
And it reminded me that I think fairly often we give homework that is, hey, look at your past investigations.
Yes.
Which is also consistent with when we have calls with different companies that are either starting this journey, or a very common call is, hey, we want help sort of changing our investigation strategy. And we can point them to like, great, well, look at some of the investigations that you've done, because there's so much richness there that I think the way to say it would be, we historically may have left a lot of meat on the bone. And we can still go back when there hasn't been an incident yet, look at our past investigations and try something new.
Yeah. And then absolutely you can use it as a comparison of what we had done and what we could do or can do or are doing now. So
historically we got to the clue answer, but now we're doing So
that was the homework. And to try to model the homework, I guess, in real time, we're going to operationally learn. And by we, I mean you're gonna you're gonna operationally learn, or learn, I guess, in three different ways about something in my world, which I think we just chose to use my morning, since we talked about that in past episodes, trying to describe what complexity is. So we can try to compare and contrast these three different ways of picturing failure.
But let's talk about you trying to picture failure in your morning, because that's we were mid discussion. And I was like, stop, I'm going to start recording now.
Yeah.
And it was because of this conversation that we're about to have, which we had a plan, which for us, major step forward. I guess 75th episode, we finally got our feet under us. We were going to have a plan going into the episode. And you were thinking about, okay, how would I explain my morning and the brittleness and the failures? And so
Correct.
share
Yeah.
what you
And so
wrote.
I'm thinking about it through option number one, which is there's been an event and you're supposed to ask me about the event so that we can try to sort of pinpoint cause of the event. And I realized that I couldn't really come up with an event, which is actually incredibly telling and important in and of itself. So what I mean by an event is if we're using the model of a morning as something to learn about, a negative outcome of a morning would be you didn't achieve whatever your goal is. So I didn't get back to do work on time. I didn't get to the airport on time. I didn't
record a podcast. We have to.
I didn't.
We have to
Yes, I
start
didn't
by
drop my
X
kids
time.
off on time. And in absence of an event, the belief, if you're thinking about it as an ordered system, is that the process works really well. It's maybe either a well-designed process, or maybe we even picture it as a resilient process. It's a process that can hold up to time and different users. And so absence of events, if we're thinking about it as an ordered system, means green process, green output, green input for an ordered system. I can tell you conclusively, my morning is not green inputs. And yet I still struggle to come up with a really good conclusive event. And that's an important dichotomy between the reality and what somebody would see if there was a metric scorecard of me getting to work on time. I'm pretty good at getting to work on time, but I can picture what it took to do that. And I can tell you it is not a resilient process. It is quite brittle in some circumstances.
Well, what's fun for me is that you actually don't have to tell me that, because I've had to step in and do the morning process when you and your husband were traveling. It's a lot. It's a lot of ways it could go bad. But yes, I just wanted to give some I've been there, seen it, and agree with you, in case the audience was like, Andrea.
So if you asked me, Matt, just ask me about failure of my morning and I give you the answer. So let's imagine this is analogous to a work process, and you're trying to learn, but you're trying to learn through the lens of just events itself. What might you ask me?
Are you asking me to start with like our first example of like,
yeah,
okay, are we? And then we're assuming you were late.
No, I mean, just even let's imagine you don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, you're even looking for an event.
Why would you be late? What would happen? Tell me.
Why would I be late? Most likely because my kids weren't listening in the morning.
Okay. What weren't they listening about? Why didn't they listen?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with them wanting to play when it's time to get shoes on. And so not being able to get to the bus on time because they didn't want to put their shoes on when I asked them to. And then we cut it a little bit too close, missed the bus. I mean, the most common way I could picture getting to work late is if I miss the bus, then I have to get in a drop-off line with Penelope, which would take way longer than I had planned for in the morning.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that they were playing and that maybe got a little distracting, didn't get their shoes on to get to the bus on time. So what are we going to do to make sure that they have their shoes on before they can be distracted?
I'm going to leave myself enough time. And so I usually tell them to get their shoes on 10 minutes before they actually have to have their shoes on so that I can adjust for when they don't want to put their shoes on. I also bought new socks because they were struggling with finding socks that they were happy with. So I found the one that they were most happy with and bought a bunch of those.
Okay. So you have set a rule in place that you want them to be ready 10 minutes before they really have to be ready, and then you bought some new socks. But it seems like we could still be late. So why don't we add maybe 5 minutes? Why don't they have their shoes on 15 minutes before they need to? That we have an extra buffer, and then let's use those new socks.
Okay. All right. So that'd be option one.
Yep.
Option one
That's hard
is
to
in
do.
this case, there wasn't even really an event. But we kind of said, well, what would be the most likely way that we'd have an event? And then we used the idea of let's look for causality in a linear fashion. Why would you be late? Which would force me to come up with maybe one of the more egregious contributing factors.
Or just the most recent.
Or just the most recent, right? The one that's freshest on my mind. And then we sort of got fixated on that piece of it. I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that there aren't improvements made to the process, right? There's things that not only have I already done, but Matt, from your perspective here, were encouraging me to do more of, instead of 10 minutes, do 15 minutes. We've made an incremental change to the process. Where we get stuck is if we believe that means that I'm going to be on time to work. If we've conflated the concept of these tiny improvements that we made to a tiny piece of this process means I will be on time, that's where our failure and thought process would be. Not that we can't make small improvements if we focus on the most recent or a moment in time.
Sure.
So that's option one. Yeah.
But we also ignored the rest of reality in the solution.
We did.
Which was
we absolutely did.
Just do it 5 minutes earlier, and then we don't.
Right.
Extrapolate.
Well, what does that mean to do it 5 minutes earlier?
Yeah.
What else has to happen to actually be able to do it 5 minutes earlier? 15 minutes. Now there's 15 minutes of kids wearing shoes in the house. What happens when they take their shoes off because they've been wearing their shoes for 15 minutes? Okay, well, let's go outside. What happens when it's negative degrees outside? So we're going to wear our shoes in the house, and they'll probably also take their shoes off, but we're going to do it 15 minutes early, but we can't necessarily go outside. So maybe we've prepped, or maybe we've actually made the entire process worse because they know they're not supposed to run around in the house with their shoes on. And so what are we going to do during that time?
We also can look at it from the lens of, we don't know what number edition this 5 minutes was. So maybe now you're waking up at 2:30 in the morning to get all the other things done because we've created some crazy process that requires the kids to be up by 4 so that they have 30 minutes to brush their
5
teeth,
extra
right?
minutes.
So,
yeah. It's the butterfly effect of these 5 minutes. Okay. So that's option one that we went through. Option two would be, Matt, you'd be asking questions about sort of the sticking points of my morning. So an expanded version of what we just did. You asked me why I would get to work late, and I gave you one possible contributing factor.
And then
now you're going to ask me more about the process.
Yeah.
I'll come up with whatever comes to mind first, which would be multiple contributing factors, I would assume. But why don't you try to learn through that lens?
Sure. Hey, Andy, what are the toughest parts of your morning?
Toughest parts of my morning would be getting the girls up at the right time, which is based on when I get out of bed as well. That would be one. Second would be whether or not I have to walk the dog, and the how I have to walk the dog. That's a pretty icky part of the process. And then I guess third would be how we have to get to the bus stop based on the temperature outside. Those are the top 3 that come to mind for me.
Okay. And so you mentioned kind of getting the girls up and yourself up, depending on how those are two interlinked. You mentioned walking the dog and how you do it, which, taking my role play hat off, is the most crazy thing I've ever heard. And then putting the hat back on, how to get to the bus stop.
Yeah.
Which one of those 3 is the most frustrating?
Most frustrating? The dog. The dog is the most frustrating.
Why?
Because if I'm getting the girls ready myself, they're of an age where it's hard for me to be gone for any length of time because somebody needs something. And even if I'm like, hey, I just have to walk the dog for a minute, I'll be right back. By the time I get back inside, usually somebody's yelling for me or in tears already, or has their arm stuck in a shirt and can't get out.
All of these,
And
your
there's always a
husband.
fear in the back of my mind that, somebody's going to get injured in the couple minutes that I'm not there. But if I don't walk the dog, then he goes to the bathroom in the house.
Do you not
Um,
have a fenced in backyard?
I do have a fenced in backyard, but I also have a pool, and the pool itself is not fenced in, but the backyard is fenced in right now. And so I'm not comfortable with him going outside and getting onto the pool cover without me being there.
What about like a lead line or something that we could put in that would make it so he could come to the back door, be hooked on, run, but not get into the pool? Would that help?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could, that's a thing, that's a possibility. So then I could kind of, I guess, go down to the basement would be the best place to hook the lead line, attach it to the tree. Um, I mean, it kind of it helps a little bit because I could leave him out there for a bit and then just go in and get it. I wouldn't know if he peed or pooed if I wasn't watching, but I don't know, I guess if I left him out there
Okay.
for a
Why don't
while.
we think about that as an option? But let's also, you mentioned how to get to the bus stop. What does that mean?
So depending upon how cold it is going to change the amount of time that I need. It's a little bit faster actually to walk to the bus stop. It's a few houses down. Um, and the fastest option is when it's not super cold and we can walk to the bus stop. And actually, at that point, I usually bring the dog, and so that he can go potty if he wasn't able to do it earlier. So that's kind of helps with that scenario. But it's been really, really cold, so cold that there's a chance of frostbite. So instead, we go into the car, even though it's only two houses down, because sometimes the bus is late. And so we'd be standing outside in the cold for 10, 15 minutes with wind chill really low, and the kids are young. To do that, though, you have to get into the car, which we're very fortunate that we have a garage, but it's cold enough in the garage that we put on coats to get to the car. And then we have to take off the coats in the car. And then we have to park on the side of the road, wait for the bus, and then unstrap everybody to put coats back on. Um, in order for us to be able to pop out of the car fast enough to get on the bus. And the process of getting into the car and getting down the road takes twice as long as actually just walking.
Okay. So what I heard there is there is a mechanism to get the girls to the bus stop when it is really cold, which is when it is the most stressful. And added difficulty is that it's very cold in the garage, so you have to jacket to go into the garage, to go into the car where you can't wear your jacket, to get out of the car where you need your jacket back on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it just all takes a while.
why don't we, can we heat the garage? Why don't we look at getting a heater in there so they could?
Yeah, we actually do have a heater that's just not hooked up yet. So
Okay,
yeah,
so why don't we
I mean that's a
let's
possibility of what we
put
could
a
do. Yeah.
work order in for that. I would go back to the get up process, but we're already 18 minutes into this episode.
Did you just take your hat off? You're like, okay,
Yeah,
we've learned.
hold on, wait a minute, this can go on way too long. Okay,
All right, so that was option two. So you asked me to think about the process, pick out some of the frustrating parts, the points of contention, the points naturally that are frustrating. Usually have ones with higher amounts of variability, or there's there's some sort of barrier to me being able to execute the process. You asked me a few questions about it, and then in your interpretation of the problem, offered me up some solutions, which seemingly the way that we talked about it a little bit collaboratively, of hey, this solution could work. I've actually already thought of the heater. We physically, that's not a joke, we physically have one to hook up, and it just hasn't been hooked up yet. Lead line, I'm trying to picture it in reality. You didn't push me on it too hard. What's amazing though is in my mind right now, I know that these solutions aren't going to make it holistically more likely that I'm going to get to work on time. I know it, but logically in the conversation, it would even be hard for me to argue why. because it is such a small portion of what it actually means to get out of my house in the morning that it almost feels silly just to focus on those areas, which sounds a little bit bizarre since I'm the one that identified those areas. And I told you they're most frustrating and then I talked about it. It just isn't holistic enough for it to feel like it's going to have tangible change. Um, that said, I want to be really clear. There's no harm in trying a lead line to see whether or not that would be helpful. And certainly having a warmer garage would help, at least with reducing the amount of time of getting in the car, specifically on cold days. These are process improvements, period.
All of which
It's
were
once
within
again,
budget.
all of them are.
They
It's
were
once
within
again
budget,
whether
just
or
to be
not
clear.
we convince ourselves that these process improvements are an answer in and of themselves and a complete answer to the concept of me getting to work on time.
Which we don't. They're not.
And they're not. Oh yeah, to be clear,
They're
the
not.
point we're trying
Yeah.
to make is that although these are process improvements and we're not even saying don't do it this way, we just don't want to confuse it with the golden answer, because we are not in an ordered system in which fixing these couple little areas is suddenly going to change the output in a very dramatic way.
And I think one of the reasons why this is not a totally ineffective way to have a discussion is you could imagine a situation where there is a student teacher dynamic and someone's raising something and it's like, oh, well, have you tried this before? And it's a totally novel way that they never knew about. And oh, wow, that would really help. And that would change the dynamic completely. Thank you. That's helpful. That's still very helpful.
That's very helpful. And also, we don't have time all the time to try to unpack an entire process in a discussion, right? So if we're trying to get to some quick wins of small process improvements, having conversation in this way has value to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, tell me some of the most frustrating places. I can tell you, I can pinpoint them. None of these things are bad, period. We just don't want to get confused as to what they are. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that I use the phrase a lot, they're not absolutes. They're not going to fix everything, and they're not going to make it so we don't have to worry about this problem ever again. They're not that.
They're incremental small improvements to a small piece
Maybe.
of a puzzle. Maybe.
Maybe.
That's
the other part.
Maybe. Because I can also tell you that the lead line, there's a lot of different reasons why that lead line would make things worse rather than better. I can also tell you that the amount of time we'd be saving for the jacket on off process compared to the getting strapped into the seat process is very small. And that is only a part of what can happen between leaving the house and getting to the garage. That is only a tiny piece of the time suck that can happen during that period of time.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to the fact that your youngest wants to buckle herself in, and that's a whole other.
Correct.
Okay. It's 2 of 3.
2 of 3.
Do we want to do the third?
Feels mean to wait, but also how long have we gone?
23 minutes before the intro. So this is all 24 minutes in.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, part of the difficulty is that it would take a little bit to actually learn, which is part of the problem of where we get this barrier of operational learning to do it well, right? For you to actually have a pretty good mental picture of what it takes for me to get to work. It's going to require me to teach you. And that's going to take, I would guess, more than 7 minutes.
15 minutes? Yeah, I think it's going to take quite some time.
And and that's before we've even brainstormed some options or defined problems or any of those things.
Which is this is fun because I've also done this process for you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I've been to your house 100 times. I've taken the girls to school 5 times. Like, I've done all this. I know the process. I think I have a text with it written out in like a full how to do.
You have my closest ability to try to proceduralize the morning as possible.
Yeah.
You have that as a written document to try to follow. So yeah, I think you're probably right to think that we don't have enough time while also keeping our commitment to not make these terribly long.
Yeah, and I think we can, hopefully the next episode will be the last episode of Complexity. We'll see.
They're not going to believe us anymore.
I
No
know.
one's going to believe us.
They shouldn't. Okay, so that'll be it for this one. And then the thrilling conclusion of operationally learning
My
about
morning.
Andrea's morning will happen next episode. But thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.
Well, that's it.
Yep, another one in the books. We did it.
If you want to send us any of your thoughts, actually fling us any of your thoughts, you can do so at the website www.hoppodcast.com.
That's HOPPODCAST.com.
It's still such a stupid name.
It's such a different name. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening.